time to pivot over to talk a little bit about the workforce. And for that, we have the secretary for the workforce development, Suzie Schowen's with us. Suzie, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Glad to have you on this morning.
Yep,
glad to be talking workforce specifically. And I know you're going to be talking about this later on at the summit. One Door. What is it?
So the long story here is that if somebody is on social benefits and they need to figure out how to get a job, they have to skip all over town. They have to go in one door to get their Medicaid benefits. They need to go in another door to try to get some help in finding a job. Food stamps or somewhere else. They have many doors to walk through. And these are people who are already facing a lot of challenges. And we're more or less kind of saying, okay, here's some benefits and go find a job.
Okay.
But we're not saying, here's how you find a job. And we're not targeting those benefits in the interest of getting people to self-sufficiency.
Do we have a number on what percentage of those who are on benefits this affects? Because it sounds like, just layman, like looking at it from the outside in, I would imagine that there's a lot of just throwing up your hands and just giving up. When finding a job as a full-time job and then justifying your benefits as a full-time job, now you got 2 full-time jobs without a paycheck. So this would simplify things and keep people on the path towards workforce?
That's exactly the idea. And yes, I think you're really keying into something. People get kind of demoralized and they can kind of lose their confidence in their own ability to kind of go out there and make things happen for themselves and for their children. A lot of these folks have children at home. They deserve the dignity and the pride of self-sufficiency, but they don't know how to get there.
Right.
And so we want to marshal our social services systems to get people to self-sufficiency. Bringing them from dependence to independence is the way we like to talk about it, so they no longer need those benefits.
We're talking with Suzie Schowen, who heads up the Workforce Commission. Let's talk about what brought this up. I mean, is it modeled off of another state? How did we get to where we wanted to create a One Door to begin with?
Well, and I'll tell you, I actually found out about the One Door model through the Pelican Institute. So it's really terrific to be here to be able to talk about it. And before I ever had this role, I actually took a trip with Aaron and Daniel to learn more about it. And it's a national movement. We are way ahead of the game versus a whole lot of other states. But the state that's truly ahead of the game, and we've got Mason Bishop from Utah here to talk about it at the same time that I'm talking, Utah is really the one that leads the way. I'm disappointed to tell you that after Utah went in this direction in the late 90s, federal law changed to put some obstacles in place to prevent us from getting there. Very frustrating, very frustrating. We are relatively confident that there's some new legislation going to pass in the new Congress that would really give Louisiana and just a few other states, but including Louisiana, some more flexibility to go in this direction.
Okay, what creates that flexibility? What do you need from Congress?
So what I need from Congress is the ability to deploy our workforce funds in a way that makes sense for our state, in a way that allows us to blend or braid those funds. We often talk about braiding funding streams. It's kind of a term of art, but braiding those funding streams with the federal social benefits systems. So we need more flexibility to be able to build out this plan to self-sufficiency for our people.
We're talking with Suzie Schowen from the Workforce Commission about the One Door program and getting folks that are on benefits back into the workforce for their own freedom, their own productivity, and the backside of that is, not being beholden to the government's check every so often. What kind of numbers are we talking about here? How many people in Louisiana are affected by this?
So potentially thousands to tens of thousands.
Okay.
So there's a thing called the labor force participation rate. I'm not going to jump into the details of it, but I think people have been hearing about it a lot.
Yes, there's a big difference between the unemployment rate and the labor force participation rate. when you hear unemployment rate, that is not an accurate number to determine who is actually out there working.
That's exactly right. So right now, the labor force participation rate, and that's the percentage of our adults who are currently either working or looking for work, that number's at 57%.
Mm-hmm.
And if we got up to the national average, which is about 62, 63%, that would add 140,000 workers to the Louisiana economy.
Okay, aside from the fact that the national average still leaves 37% of the populace not even bothering, not even that's got to be unbelievably frustrating. But if we were to get up to that number, do we have the jobs for them right now?
We do, and that's the other side of the story that is so important, is that our employers are really struggling to fill the job openings that they have. Mm-hmm. We've got amazing high-paid jobs in Louisiana that do not require a 4-year degree to get into, and we don't have the people to go there because they don't have the skills. So part of this story is helping these people sitting on the sidelines get the skills, get into those jobs, and help our employers.
Can One Door help on the skills front too, or does it just walk you up to where you're then?
It does. It does. Good question. And I'm going to kind of describe how that works.
Yes.
So our vision is a case management model where somebody comes in the door needing some assistance, and they meet with a case manager mm-hmm. who helps build them out a plan to get to self-sufficiency. It won't happen right away.
Right.
But it's not, okay, here's some childcare assistance. It's here's childcare assistance so you can get to this class at this college that's going to prepare you for this kind of job. It's here's an employer partner who's going to start you in an apprenticeship and offer you healthcare benefits earlier than they might have otherwise so we can get you off Medicaid.
Okay.
It's that sort of thing. It's very targeted to the individual.
Okay, so one door isn't always the same door.
That's exactly right. I like that. It's a different door for every person. I'm going to steal that.
No, it's yours. Take it. We're talking with Suzie Schowen from the Workforce Commission. Talking a little bit about One Door, but overall about our workforce in Louisiana. What are some of the other challenges that we're facing right now to maximize what our workforce could be, to up that participation rate?
So one thing that I do want to talk about, because I was starting to talk about the struggles of our employers, and we just got 2 gigantic mega projects here in Louisiana, thanks to my good friend Susan Bourgeois. We're very proud of all of this. But those folks are going to need a lot of workers, and they need a lot of workers that have essentially the skilled trades.
Right.
And that is a huge priority for us right now, is making sure that our employers have enough workers in the skilled trades so that we can capitalize on these economic development opportunities and not diminish the positive impact that they can have on our communities.
Are we finally seeing the right trend when it comes to skilled trades? Because I know we're not there yet, but at least trending towards it. I know that there's been such a renaissance, if you will, of appreciating, artisanship, appreciating having an actual trade and mastering it.
I really do think that over the past, few decades, we've had a lot of folks graduating from 4-year colleges and universities with a lot of debt and with credentials that don't really prepare them to be successful in the economy.
Right.
I do want to say I love the 4-year colleges and universities. We need lots of people graduating 100%. With lots of those degrees. But I feel like that development has help people understand that there really are good opportunities over here,
right, that
match or exceed what they can get from a 4-year college or university. And I feel like people are finally starting to get that.
Yeah. And then getting to the spot where it doesn't have to be an either or.
Yes. Exactly.
That, to me, that should be the ultimate goal, is like, you're going to a 4-year college. That's great. But to do what? Like, that has to be the follow-up question, right? You don't go to the 4-year college to get a degree. In what? To do what? I don't feel like we're following up on that front. Do we have a couple minutes? We do. Mm-hmm. A couple minutes left with Suzie Schowen. Can we talk about early education and its impacts on the workforce?
Absolutely. So I'm actually going to approach that from the other side, because I talked about child care assistance quite a few times already in terms of helping people get to school and get to work.
Mm-hmm.
So we need early childhood education in order to prepare the workforce 18 years from now, but we also need early childhood education to offer childcare to our parents that need to work right now. It's a workforce issue now and in the future.
See, this is a conversation I have with Dr. Brumley quite often. This is a conversation I have with Brack quite often, with Patterns Alliance for Students, like everywhere we turn. It's this twofold conversation where, number one, early childhood education is not daycare. But at the same time, early childhood education needs to be daycare to free up our current workforce, our current potential workforce as well. How do you walk that balance to make the sell that says we're doing both at the same time?
So I do think there's been a lot of movement under Cade's leadership now that early childhood education is under the oversight of the Department of Ed to actually make it education and professionalize the industry.
Yeah.
And I do know that a lot of the daycare providers not only are willing to move in that direction, that's where they've always wanted to go. So I feel like there has been progress there. I will say challenges remain. The business model is difficult. And, without those workers earning a really solid wage, it's hard to attract people who are truly educators. It's challenging.
Last minute before we get you out of here, let's go ahead back and recap One Door before we have to close out for news here. What is needed to take One Door to the next level?
Well, we are going to be introducing some legislation. Stephanie Burrell is working with us on that. I'm not going to be able to tell you all about it right now. I'm teasing it, but y'all will be hearing about it very soon, and we'd love to talk to you about it.
Well, April 14th is the opening of the session. I'm sure we will know it at the very least by then.
Yes, indeed.
She is Suzie Schowen, heads up the Workforce Commission. I greatly appreciate a couple minutes this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.